Hello, and welcome back to another week of the DP World Tour picks and bets. Actually, DP World Tour this week. Last week, we gave a preview of the PGA Championship for guys that we enjoyed that were teeing it up from the DP World Tour. Now we have the Soudal Open as we're back in full summer swing here. Tom, how was your PGA Championship?
Not quite as good as yours because you obviously were on Xander Schauffele. I was on Bryson DeChambeau. Now, one thing I would say is hard as someone that was going to be in a much better financial position if Bryson DeChambeau had won, but like, I'm actually kind of glad Xander won. Like, I think this is a guy that's been statistically one of the best players for 2 years now. I think it's really Scheffler has been better than him strokes game wise, right? And he just deserved it. Like, I thought what was going to happen to him was he was going to lead right up until the final day, and then there was just going to be a shootout on Sunday based on how the course had been, and he would just get kind of overtaken rather than throwing it away, and then it would go down in history that he'd lost again. He didn't do that. Like, it was a really good final few holes. I know that the course didn't necessarily give an opportunity for him to bogey, but it could have been done. He could have not hit that ball so well out of the stance, right? So absolutely deserved it. There'll always be people that be critical about it wasn't a great major or whatever. I don't really care. Like, he's proven now that he can do it. And that's all he needed. Like, he just needed the confidence, right? So when Pinehurst rolls around, when Troon rolls around, and people are happy with the golf course, I still think he'll be ready to rock and roll. So it'll be really interesting to see how Xander performs now. But in terms of European contingent, like, really impressive, right? I mean, Rosie stormed back up to the top of the leaderboard. I was getting worried there for a little bit that after 37 years of backing Justin Rose in a row and not being on him, but McIntyre played well for a good period. I mean, I had to watch basically every shot he ever hit yesterday, which was pointless after about hole 3. But yeah, it was good to see. And like, you obviously get some random names. Like Thomas Dietrich was, good for so long, and it was weird. I'm surprised it sort of played into the Europeans' hands so much. I mean, like, if you think about big hitting and birdie fest, you'd think that was more kind of like US centric, right? But Dietrich, Hovland, Rose, Lowry, McIntyre, Rory, obviously, like, that's a big contingent of European people just in the top 12. Actually, that's similar to what we saw in 2014, I guess.
Yeah, it was I think an interesting week overall. I mean, pleasant to land Xander, I think, from that standpoint. I think he was, to me, the separator of next best player in the world of, I mean, I think that the argument really could have been side by side with Rory on where it was leading into it. And just proved that to be. I mean, as much mental as the Sundays probably had some factor into it, I think overall it is just part of golf too.
Yeah.
Seem to have a mindset of it's another day, you show up and you play the best you can, and ultimately the 65 got it done, and 18 was quite incredible for him to rally there after being in that position, but pushed on from just about everybody. An incredible leaderboard. I'm really geared up for Pinehurst. I think it just heightens the state of golf. Definitely is getting these majors to be so heightened beyond belief, right? It did feel like for a period of time, like PGA Tour events were just basically mini majors and some of the elevated or big ones when they were full fields. And I don't know, I'm just such a sucker of top talent plus the qualifying plus the exemptions from different parts of the world. Soderberg was awesome, makes the ace. He was 6 over after 8 holes.
Yeah.
And he got to the point that he was, right? He finished 68th, but man, to make the cut like he did, Jesper Svensson making the cut in debut, thought was really, really cool. I mean, you're calling Wallace. Where did Wallace? He didn't end up fruition, right? 43, shot a 65 on Friday. Alexander Bjork T40 a long, big hitting birdie fest was quite amazing. Histatune, awesome. Minwoo Lee, right? I mean, just a lot overall, to your point, from guys across the globe contending or at least having really good weeks at Valhalla.
Yeah, I mean, Alexander Bjork was probably the most surprising of those, and obviously
I can't believe he's not playing Colonial. That was right in stone.
Yeah, it's so strange. Look, I think sort of debated this on Twitter. Like I don't really like, a lot of people didn't like the golf course, and there wasn't many challenges. I think one thing majors are not doing very well at the moment is finding a venue that seems to match up with weather. And I don't know, they've just been really unfortunate, right? But like, I don't know if Kentucky is expected to have that kind of weather in May or whatever, if it's just a freak sort of instant. But it just seems to be that every time we go to a golf course, it's like, oh, well, it's been ruined because there's been rain on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's been ruined because, there's been thunderstorms in the area. It's been delayed all the rounds. Like, I can't remember the last major where I feel like it's just gone completely plain sailing from that respect. So, and like the US Open, like didn't tee off in time or whatever, and playing in the dark. Like, it gets so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think Augusta this past year was as perfect as you could ask for from like a delivering stand. I mean, it's Augusta, right? So it always is going to be amazing and held to a different standard. But I don't know. I think Pinehurst, I'm not as familiar as those who probably have gotten a chance to play or watch some of the YouTube content that's always seemed ongoing at Pinehurst. I will gear up with that in the next few weeks leading in. Keimer winning in the past and being familiar with majors played there, but seems to be a quirky enough course that could either ask those same questions after the fact that you're talking about now, or deliver in a way that satisfies more of the golf population. It will be interesting to say the least, I think.
The one thing I noticed, and this is very like 2 minutes after yesterday's final round, just trying to get a kind of grip of what we could expect. I noticed there was a decent amount of translation between Pinehurst and Bay Hill. Now, Keimer didn't really have much there, but like I looked at like basically what I do in these things, like how on earth did Eric Compton finish second? And then we look, he's had a couple of really good finishes at Bay Hill. Henrik Stenson famously lost about every there. Adam Scott's played well there. Jimmy Walker's had good performances there. Ricky Fowler, Keegan Bradley I think's played well there. So there's been a lot of kind of Bay Hill stuff that would bring potentially some Europeans into it as well. I think it'll be more what we want, right? Like I think we will get more what we want from there, or what the overall Twitter golf wants, I guess. When I say we, I don't really care. Like I'm not that kind of course person, if you like. I know what you need to do to play well at a golf course, but other than that, like I don't really get into design stuff. It's a bit too far for me. But yeah, it's great to have the DP World Tour back now is the main thing. Like the one thing I would say, like Soderberg, like has had that great run, but it's been so bitty, right? He's not been able to just get 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row. Where I feel like if they could just go into a major really cooked, it'll be interesting to see. So looking forward to the next couple of majors with the DP World Tour guys playing in full flow.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a full, real DP World Tour field, right? We're getting 30 guys of the qualifying school of the 33 in the field who have gotten some status through the years. A bunch of people are teeing it up right now in the Walton Heath US Open qualifier. At this moment, looks like Forrest, Mansell, Brandon Robinson, Thompson, Bairstow, Rock, McKibben, Dodo Molinari, which is cool. Jason Scrivener and Matteo Monacero are going to be the 9 qualifiers. Jarvis, Pavan, Bjorn Akison, our man Guido, and Rivetto look to be battling it out for the alternate spots. That could lead into a U.S. Open exemption as well. So that's always fun when those guys, I mean, Robin Williams, a couple shots short, Nearguard Peterson, a couple shots short. So like, again, I like, of course, love Augusta, but the fields at the PGA and the US Open and then the Open Championship can create just so much different in that manner of exemptions and spots earned. So some fun DP World Tour guys will be representing there. As we lean into this overall week, Soudal Open, we're at Ringfin, which famously was, of course, the greatest DP World Tour event that ever had been held. The Belgian knockout, 36-hole stroke play into the bracket format in which Guido Migliozzi was your winner the last time they ran it. Yeah, him and Otegi went back-to-back, I think in the 2 years that they ran the event. I loved it. Sad for it to no longer exist, but do enjoy the golf course. From my memory, tree-lined, tight. If you look at parallels, the year that Guido had won in Magical Kenya, similar type of style asked over there. Now, there are some holes that you can choose to be more bomber heavy and almost drive the greens at and get kind of greenside. If you are able to fight the trees and or still drive it accurate enough, but more of a precision than power test.
Yeah, like so statistically, driving accuracy didn't matter as much last year as it did the first year. Simon Forstrom ranked 38th off the tee. A lot of that will be obviously the fact he's not long, but Horsfield was only 51st in that category. Neither of those two guys were inside the top 5 in terms of accuracy. But when you look at kind of last year's accuracy leaders, drive accuracy leaders, you had Ategi led it. He finished 15th. Cockerell second. He finished 10th. You had Alexander Bjork ranking 5th in accuracy. He finished 4th. Richie Ramsey 5th in accuracy. Finished 7th. So it did kind of still correlate to massive success. The green in regulation was a bit surprising. Didn't seem to matter too much. Seems to be scrambling is massive. Simon Forsham led that category. Sam Horsfield was second. So it does just seem to be that you're going to miss greens here. It just depends on how you kind of react to that is kind of the difference. Simon Forsham led the par 4s. He was 14 under on the par 4s. And Sam Horsfield was 8 under when they won. So, and then Yannick Paul was second in that category. He tied for first with Horsfield in that category and finished second. So the par 4s do seem to dominate what happens. Par 5s didn't seem to matter as much. They will matter, but I think it's just how you deal with those kind of, as you said, potentially driving opportunities and some of the tougher golf holes there as well.
Yeah, I've always liked this course, and they do a good job of bringing in the Belgian contingent. It seems to have a lot of fan support. They are getting Thomas Peters an exemption over here, coming over from Live, playing really well so far on Live. Adrian Dumonte-Chassart is also going to be teeing it up. They've always through the years gotten the best Belgian golfers to play. Dietrich not coming this time around, but yeah, it's definitely an event that it's a good kickoff into what should be the Euro Tour summer, the DP World Tour summer of.
And a really good betting event. Like the numbers are great. Like because you've got Peters over there, because you've got Jordan Smith coming over after a good round. Yannick Paul's been playing well. That's 3 guys at 22-1. And to be honest, Scott, we sort of discussed before we come on here, not necessarily afraid of them. Now, I wanted one of them, and it was sort of debating between Peters and Yannick Paul, just to sort of skip ahead here. But like, I just don't trust Yannick Paul at the moment. It's just not at 22-1. Don't really feel it. And Peters, just not a good course fit. Everything we've just described there doesn't feel like a good course fit. He finished 9th here a couple of years ago, but it was pretty much down to one final round. Now, he has been playing better on Live since he made his move to the Range Goats, if there's anything into that. And sorry, he didn't make the move, but since they've changed the team, and he has been playing well, but like, I don't know that that's changed my mind about how he's going to fit his golf course. So I was kind of happy to skip that top portion of the betting with Smith, Peters, and Paul.
Smith was awesome, right? Sunday 64 at Pinehurst. Come over here with Otagwe would be the one, I think, when you think about through it, right? He won here. He battled pretty hard. I think he just missed the cut by 1. I mean, he won in Volvo China. To me, he would be the standout selection kind of from the top of the board that I don't know. I don't know if I write home of somebody, being 28-1 coming back from the PGA Championship, but Pablo did the same thing virtually last year, right? Didn't he win, miss a cut at a major, come back and win again at a decent number? Could Adrian just be on that run?
And probably missing the cut probably helped him. Like not just having those final 2 days where you finish in 47th and not really getting much confidence. Like
he did have to play Saturday morning. I do know that. Yeah.
He was close for me. Like I think just looking at obviously he won the knockout, and then you want to see like how have they performed when it's not match play, right? And he's gone back to back 15th place finishes here. I guess the only thing was like he never particularly looked like winning. They were just really solid 15th place finishes and never really better than that throughout the week. It's really funny. Like Angel Hidalgo was also back to back 15th place finishes. Weird they've just finished in the same position both times, but I think Ategi is the who's going to give you a shot over the weekend. He's the one I feel most comfortable about. Like Peters could easily just explode. I think Smith could be sort of hungover from Sunday, and I think Paul is your best guess. I think Paul makes the most sense of course fit and talent level, but just, I mean, is he going to win? Probably not. Is at the odds.
Yeah, I mean, Ortega did have the fourth at the Magical Kenya Open. I don't know. There's a lot to chew on there.
Are you trying to get me to talk you out of it, and I'm not doing a good enough job? What's going on here? Like, do you want to...
No, because I'm coming in here with not a full. You know me, Tom. I normally come in with at least 6, if not 7 selections. I have 4 at the moment with a couple long shots I could talk through it near the end. He's somebody to consider, I think, at 28 as we circle back through it.
I think the overriding feeling is both of us would go to him if we're going to pick someone from that 20s range.
Yes. Yep. And if we're not stacked on the card, are we just making a mistake by not? Yeah,
that's the one that I've struggled with. It's like I've only got 4 guys right now, and they're all kind of 50 to 1 and bigger. Like, there's no real reason to avoid it, other than, do you think he's going to win back-to-back events and on the DP World Tour? And like you said, he's had a missed kind of PGA Championship in between that. It's not like he's playing back-to-back weeks, so good enough player to do it.
Yeah, we'll bite on that as we go. We do align first selection though off of the bat. Somebody who I was on last time out in China, where you give him 18 more holes, Tom. You don't know what could have happened there. It did get shortened. He had lost by 5 to Adrian that week. I mean, truly, if you would have given 18 more holes, Guido probably would have won, of course. Great showing by him in China last time out. But Johannes Veerman, back-to-back T10s. Steady Eddie for him right now. I think overall, his game seems to be in the best spot since 2022, probably, maybe even before that, 2021, when he kind of went on his stretch run. Played decent today in the U.S. Open qualifier. I think he was T15. Right there, 2 shots out of getting into the U.S. Open. But man, I just think everything aligns in a wonderful price, 55s for Veerman.
Yeah, good golf course for him. As you said, second, 8th last 2 starts, second at the Indian Open and 15th in Kenya in the past. I think really encourages me, like how he plays on those kind of tight, more actually demanding tracks, right? 1st and 14th for the last 2 starts in strokes gained approach, and 7th and 5th tee to green. So all-round game is in great shape for Johannes Veerman. And, I think I was on him slightly earlier in the season. You were on him again more recently, and just a player we like, right? Like, I think we were trying to be early on him, and it didn't quite pay out. And I mean, now you could probably still consider it early, right? If he's 55 to 1, this is a player that typically would go off at kind of like 28 and 33. It's kind of best, right? So I do think we're still slightly early on the curve, and I think he's be a popular selection this week. It's not going to be just us 2 talking about him, but I think now is the right time to bet him if you're going to, because one more good week here and he's going to be half the price.
Yes, without a doubt. And one more good week from Guido Migliozzi, and he is going to be very much half of the price. Missed out on the U.S. Open, like we mentioned, by 1. Former winner at this golf course. Comp course galore. We've kind of ran that through Guido and seeing where he shows up. We had virtually, a clear talking point every single week, right, of what we had for multiple years on this show. And we've had some Guido relief for a significant amount of time until China, right? China, where we didn't have any ticket from my end near him, finishes second out of nowhere, 19th in approach. Somebody who then now carries that over into Walton Heath. And basically, he was probably going off, and I could pull it up here as we go through. His odds in China for Guido were 65, 70 to 1. So for him to still be 60 to 1 for this week, I'm quite encouraged. I know the event probably had a bit more strength this week. I don't know. And Soderbergh still was in that event. Smith was, McKibben. So I think it was still decent enough, but I'm going to start riding the hot hand if this is going to be in that manner. Maybe he wins the alternate playoff here. Maybe then he wins the U.S. Open after winning the Volvo China or winning the Soudal Open. So if you can get the double on there for Soudal U.S. Open, count me in there too, because we might have the summer of Guido, Tom.
Is it summer that he's pretty good generally? Like,
feels like it.
That likes the summer. Like, he won the Belgian knockout on the 2nd of June. He famously lost the British Masters to Blandy, didn't he? And I think that's kind of summertime, right? September he won last time out. in France. So maybe he just likes this time of year as well. And I mean, look at him. He loves the summer. I mean, he's got that lovely olive skin, and look, 4th and 14th in US Open so far. It's a good thing for him. So look, it's always good to have him back. I think when you look at these DP World Tour events, you've got these. Peters just come back in the field from Liv, but like Peters, Migliozzi, Afid Barnrat, you've got these recognisable names that are recognisable for a reason. They've played a lot of good tournaments, good level of events. I think there's slightly different to the likes of Joost Luiten, perennial winners on the DP World Tour, but don't really do anything beyond that. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas I think the peak performances of these other guys we just mentioned there, that trio, are slightly more appealing. So, yeah, once they kind of get their wind under themselves, the numbers are going to start coming in. So definitely time to be on again. Very similar to Veerman, I think.
Yep, absolutely. Trying to think. I know you're on one of the brothers coming up here. What's the price there? Is that next on our board?
100 to 1. So
if we're talking about dwindling prices, I don't really know what the books were doing this morning when they were pricing up Joel Gierbach at 150 to 1. I mean, I believe he was half of the price. I mean, Baroff was on him. Brad was on him last time out in the 80s, maybe 100s when he was second in China and chased down Adrian. And the fact to get him now 150s at what I would dream up as a course fit for him. I mean, even 100 to 1, I am more than happy to be on. I think I would have been on 60s, 70s this week just from what we could have asked. But right now, best price 100 to 1, absolutely in on Gierbach.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be 66 to 80 to 1. I messaged you as I normally do, and we're trying to arrange a time on a Monday morning there in Florida, right? That it was Joel Gierbach week. It was simple as that. Like, that's literally the message I said. I didn't go into much detail. I just kind of let you know what was happening. And I'm not going to be alone in that. Like, it is just the perfect call. You just look at who's going to be the perfect comp for him. Simon Forstrom's coming from the Challenge Tour, got to this level and won. That looks like what he's going to do. And when you look 13th, 8th, and 3rd in his last 3 starts, what does a guy need to do to knock his price down, right? 2 good rounds in Kenya, even though the final result wasn't good. He's hitting his irons really well. I'm definitely in on Joel Gierbach, even at the 100s one. Obviously, 150 to 1 was a treat. The 100s one is fine. I'd even go down as far as probably 80 to 1. I know that sounds ridiculous when you've got him at 150, but I just think it was all wrong this morning.
Yeah, it was very, very wrong. And I think it's going to be adjusted by the time Tuesday morning comes around. So hopefully you're able to jump on this right as you listen. I wouldn't wait till the end of the show for that one. You need to be putting it in the moment you're able to access for Gierbach. Over to you then for your selection right here at 100s as well.
Yeah, so Nacho Elvira is 100 to 1, and this is very much putting my faith in this kind of Kenya Open form line, right? But he was second there. He finished 13th at the Qatar Masters, then finished second at the Kenya Open, and he's been pretty disappointing since. I think I backed him the following week, and he was disappointing. But, his iron play has been really solid even during this run of disappointing finishes. He was 9th here 2 years ago. He was 4th after round 1, 6th after round 2. So, again, just a player probably coming back to a golf course that suits him. Obviously, a stretch of courses that potentially didn't suit, bit of a weird schedule. The fact that he's still hitting his irons well during that run and his wedges encouraged me. The form line, as I said here a couple of years ago with the 9th, 2nd at the Kenya. I'm very happy to take Nacho Elvira. I think it's because we've got the shiny new toy in Manual. I think everyone's kind of looking past Nacho Elvira, but at 100 to 1, I'll take the experienced brother.
Yeah, man. It's I think been a resurgence, and he's just somebody that I'm not shocked to see his name atop of leaderboards. I'm really not at this stage. He's just a popper overall. He just pops.
He's that kind of tier below. So you kind of got Larafabao is a tier below, obviously, the Sergios of this world. And then you've kind of got Campillo and Otegi that are really reliable to get a good finish each year, contend for a win. Then you've got Nacho Elvira that can just kind of pop randomly, but has the top level kind of spike weeks, a bit like an Adrian House, I guess, in that respect. So tiering of Spanish golfers seems pretty easy to me. And yeah, 100 to 1, I'll always take that. When he gets to kind of like 35 and 40 to 1, when I did it last time, where he's coming off the back of a good result, probably avoid. He doesn't seem to be able to stack results together, but when he's 100 to 1 at a course that he's shown up in the past, I'll take it.
Yep, totally. Anybody sub 100 who else was on your radar that you were thinking through at all?
So I had a brief look at Daniel Hillier. I thought that he's playing pretty well. When you go back to kind of British Masters, potentially that's something to look at. I thought about Matthew Jordan based on his performance in Kenya, but there's just not too much encouragement overall. And then it was Richie Ramsey, who's got a good record here and historically very good at these types of golf courses, but maybe the winning upside isn't there. So that's why I kind of went with the spike performance of Nacho Elvira. And I guess there'll be some interest in Afid Barmer, as we sort of mentioned. He's a class player, but I didn't really have too much to support other than the fact that, you know, he's playing pretty solidly. He was 15th here last year, but it never looked like he was going to win.
Right. Yep. Can agree with you there. Sam Bairstow was the one for me. Did not have the weekend go his favor, right? Or I guess we said that.
I lost you there. I got the Sam Bairstow was one for me that cut out.
Yep. So, you know, Sam Bairstow on my end, from looking through, I mean, we maybe have classified him now somebody who has Sunday struggles, or be surprised he hasn't picked one up yet, you know, from his stellar play. I mean, now he's going to get into the US Open. Seemingly would be somebody who would be okay at this style, of course. I don't know. I don't know why, like 55s again for him was something like, okay, we didn't really need to even entertain him again, but he was somebody that I thought could be very intriguing.
I just had the fatigue on Sam Bairstow, and like 55 to 1, it's good, but it's not the 107 to 1s where we felt like we had to do it right. So if he wins 55 to 1, I'll just be happy for him and move on. But yeah, he makes perfect sense. And like even when we're saying like he's got these Sunday struggles, like it's not a big sample size, right? Like we just got through. I mean, a completely different elite level, but Xander's just been kind of talked about as someone that can't get through it, and you know, wins a major. Now all of a sudden he's got a major win, 8 PGA Tour wins, and top threes in every major. Your narrative switches after one round. So it wouldn't take long for the momentum to shift on Bairstow, and I think it will. He's playing too well for it not to.
Yep, I would agree. Darius Van Driel is like 80s, 90s. He won, right, the Magical Kenya Open. So he hasn't done
second here.
Yeah, he lost to Guido in that final. T20 in Singapore, 21, I guess, since was really bad in China, but like you could just forego it and just say, okay, it should be a dream course fit, played well here, probably priced too long for a winner of this event, or a winner this year, and then close in this event.
He's that classic guy where like I love that his outright odds boost his kind of top 40 number, but like I don't necessarily think he's going to go and win this week, although I've sort of said in the past I think he's been overlooked. I do think recent winners, I mean, potentially talk about Manasero in a minute, like those guys that have won on the tour recently are still being overlooked. You know, I guess they don't trust Manasero to keep it going. They don't think, you know, potentially Van Driel's ever going to do it again. But like the number is fine for just playing consistent golf, and you know, we'll come at the end. We'll come to players that I think fit that category as well. But Van Driel definitely kicks it off, I think.
Yep, 100%. Okay, I can go next at 150s. Is that right? Okay.
Mine's actually shorter, but you can go.
Okay, cool. We're in the same ballpark. All right. You won't be surprised. Everybody listening shouldn't be surprised, because you know when I wait to get these guys back in the field, I'm ripping them, and that's Nicolo Galetti. I mean, what more to really say than we've gotten 4 events out of him so far since he's had a card. Mauritius, he opened with a 66, closed with a 66 there. He then missed the cut. He missed the cut in Mauritius. That was in the Aussie Open. He had done that. Monday qualifies in between the Waste Management Phoenix Open, makes the cut there. Magical Kenya Open finishes 11th, where he goes 69, 72, 68, 67. Bet him at the Hero Indian Open, where he opens 68, 68 to sit inside the top 10, closes 74, 74. No other starts do we have from him so far this year. In between, he goes back, plays on the Asher Tour. He had won between the Kenya Open and the Indian Open, which we're interested. Just last week in Arizona, he won the Desert Financial Open, which had multiple, I guess, like Flavins in that. Corn Ferry Tour guys that are fighting for status are out there. A lot of the Mini Tour Outlaw Tour guys are always in those events. Wins that, shoots 62 in the first round out there. I just think he's a world was about to say world class because in my eyes, I like to say that, but like he is better than the guys around him and has not gotten the opportunity consistently to be able to show that. And I think hopefully we're now going to see a stretch run of starts. And of the graduates, he is my favorite one and think his talent is really, really strong. And I think with reliable strokes gained data, we've gotten one event out of him this year. That's when he led the field in accuracy at the Phoenix Open. I think he's much more strategic than bomber heavy. He does not really compete with the field in distance at all. This course should be much more his speed. I love Galletti this week.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head of the just not had a chance to prove it, right? Like in 6 months' time, when he's had 10 other events and he's not contended, then people can start saying, Sky, you were wrong on him, if that is the case, right? But until then, the very limited sample size we've got is that he's got this kind of top side talent. He's going back to many tour events and playing and winning, and like that's all you can really ask from a player like that. They can only win what's in front of them, right? And I think that's a really important thing. So, maybe you're willing to persevere longer than others, but it's based on a real thing, right? Like it's based on evidence that he's a good golfer. So, really intrigued to see how it goes. And like you say, it's getting those 3 or 4 weeks in a row that are really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm not going to be willing to jump off any of these guys if it is a tough week or two. But yeah, I really, really like him.
Yeah. No, I like it. I think it makes a lot of sense.
All right. Over to you.
Yeah, so for me, this guy was 150. He's dropped down to 120 while we've been talking here. But it's Matthias Schwab, and we're going back a few years. But I sort of mentioned this probably earlier in the season. Like this guy was ready to win. Like 2019 was really good for Matthias Schwab, right? Like he was contending all season long. I think he had 3 second place finishes that season. He was second at the Porsche European Open, second at Turkish Airlines Open. Maybe it was a third as well, BMW International Open. So he was in contention an awful lot that season. 2020 then starts playing a bit more PGA Tour, strange schedule. Maybe gets a little bit sort of confusing. Then he goes over and 2021 commits back to Europe, and he's littering top tens back and forth. Gets onto the PGA Tour. 7th at the Honda Classic, 7th at Puerto Rico, 8th at Valero, 16th at the John Deere Classic. Really good season out of Schwab in 2022. And then 2023 doesn't really go his way, and there's a lot of events in there that doesn't really happen. And I think he quickly gets forgotten about. But I was thinking about this earlier and trying to draw like a parallel to who is Schwab now, or who's potentially going to be Schwab in the next couple of years. Doesn't it feel like Campillo's doing the same sort of thing? Like was really solid on the DP World Tour, is now showing up in the odd start on the PGA Tour and has been really solid over there. But his has actually probably been in more of the opposite field events as opposed to where Schwab was doing it. But it feels like a player that's really elevated his game once he got to the PGA Tour. If Campillo was in the field this week, he was priced at like 25, 33 to 1 earlier when he was listed in it still. I know you can't do that with Schwab because he's not showing that kind of form that Campillo is currently showing. But we're talking about a guy that's made 7 cuts in a row now, and the places that he's played well, I think, are really important to me. So 23rd at the Kenya Open, 26th in India, the 2 courses I've been banging on about all video, and 8th in the China Open last time out, which is his best result. And again, like you said, do we know how he would have finished up if he had an extra round? We don't. He was trending in the right direction. That's the main thing. He was 15th after round 1, 9th after round 2, 8th after round 3. So really, growing into the event. Would he have, if he was top 5 rather than 8th last time out? I feel like his number would have been dramatically different. Maybe 70 or 80 to 1, and I don't think there was much to it. Like he's been hitting the ball well. The approach plays good. We know what the upside of Schwab is. He hasn't won yet, but he probably would have done if he'd hung around on the DP World Tour a little bit longer. And of course, I think it's tailor-made for him. So hasn't played here. We haven't got the evidence of that, but the form lines from where he's done it in the past suggests that he could be, and that's the main thing. Like, where he showed up in previous events, fourth in India, seventh in Kenya. That run of form he's done this year, where he's kind of got himself back and played well in India and Kenya again. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think you convinced me. More than opportunity to add another on my card. 120's best price here in the States. I mean, we bet him earlier this year, I think at the SDC after a strong Magical Kenya Open, where he's been trending in the right directions. Good irons, good overall tee to green game. Makes so much sense. Classic Schwab here. So I love it. Yeah, I'm in with you.
Yeah, one step further removed, I guess, from the vehement of finishing second and eighth, right? But it was eighth and then second for Veerman, I think, or potentially. And, there's no reason why this wouldn't be the second for Schwab going into. I know that sounds a little bit mumble jumble there, but you know what I'm trying to get at, that, it was actually, no, Veerman finished second first and then finished eighth last time out. But there's no reason why Schwab can't do that again and back up a good result. So pretty comfortable with him at 120 to 1.
Yep.
Always promising to see the prices going the wrong way, I guess. Like, it's in one sense, it's a lot of people on him and that throws people off, but in the other sense, it means that the theory is probably right.
Right. Totally. So I have at least one or two golfers I'd like to talk through that I'm intrigued on, or at least, as we roll down the list. I think it's a really, the more we've learned about his game, a tough fit for Ivan Quintero Gutierrez. But I'm also super confused at the price that we continue to get for him, right? 170s for Ivan, who has now made 6 cuts in a row, 2 of those being top 6 finishes, 2 of those additionally being top 25s. He's doing well still at courses where it's not bomber heavy, being the Volvo, ISPS Honda. I mean, Nakajima or Katsuhara one, that wasn't a course that was overpowered at all. Johnson Workwear was a one by Monastaro. I mean, one that maybe was a little bit more open where he could let it have it. But Magical Kenya was really when he popped early on for the first time. I mean, SDC is where he held that first. No, where did he have the first round lead? Was that Johnson Workwear? I don't know, like 170 just for that form. For me, I just don't understand why.
Yeah, like, even if you just looked at third and 23rd last 2 weeks, you'd find it pretty confusing, right? And then he goes in 23rd. I think that Kenya thing is really important. Like, we're worried about the course fit. And Kenya, I think, kind of puts a little bit of, qualms there. Like Schwab, 23rd in Kenya, we're encouraged by that. Afibama, 23rd in Kenya, people are probably going to be encouraged by that. Basically, everyone finished 23rd that week. Marcel Schneider, 23rd. So maybe there's just something to finishing 23rd at the Kenya Open. We can use that as a trend going forward. Ashton Wu was also 23rd at the Kenya Open. But yeah, I think that does give us kind of a little bit of hope that he can overcome the course form. And unlike a Peters that I think, or not even a course form, the course fit, unlike a Peters where you go, okay, well, he's had one good round there and it doesn't look a good fit on paper. He's 22 to 1 favourite. And he should be. Like, he's a really good winner, a Ryder Cup player, and coming over from a better sort of level. But the Cantero is just no risk, is there? Like 170 to 1. If it doesn't go well, you just go, right, well, chalk it up as a bad course fit, I guess.
He was also that 2019 Kenya Open where Guido won. He was 15th at the halfway point there, and that year was a disaster for him. He finished 35th that week. That's second best finish of him for the DP World Tour. I just think from on paper, there's just no reason. I think Golf Gambler went back to him, who was keen on him at that first round leader. I think he's one. And the other one that I at least wanted to look through. So he fell out pretty much after being in contention. What event was he in contention at? The STC. It's James Nicklaus. So James Nicklaus, SCC there, 12th, has gone 4 missed cuts in a row. I have a belief that the Zurich matters more than people give it credit for. You saw Gotterup win after playing pretty dang well with Eckroat that week. I mean, Rory seemingly is something that have kicked him on, right? Lowry, of course, plays well coming out of that. I'm actually pretty intrigued by Zach Blair this week at Colonial after him and Fishburne had played awesome, and then Blair makes the cut and does decent last week. There's underlying something at the Zurich that we just don't know from a data perspective what happened, right? James Nicklaus made a PGA Tour cut with Brandon Wu. It could have been nothing, right? It could have been all Brandon Wu.
Yeah, I think people are just so hesitant to give any credit to Zurich form because there isn't that data. You don't know how many strokes he gained in approach without watching.
And normally you do. Last year was not. This year was bad.
Yeah, and like that's fine. Like I think that ultimately, like, did he have a good finish? Did he get through the cut? Yes. Did he enjoy himself? Probably. Is he grateful he's got a start? Yes. I don't know what his relationship is with Brandon Wu, but if you have a good time in that day, like, then fine. Like Shane Lowry and Rory McIlroy did not need the Zurich Classic to prove themselves, but obviously they enjoyed themselves enough that week to forget about what they were struggling with. Rory goes and wins the next week. He's comfortable in Quail Hollow. Lowry takes an extra week. Like, there is something to it. I don't look at it, and I generally speaking would, if I talk about form, I talk about the last 4 individual starts as opposed to the Zurich Classic. But I think Kevin Tway might have played well in that Zurich Classic, and he's played well.
Yeah, he did. And then he kept it up too.
Playing well. So like, there's definitely something to it of just like, right, I've got myself in the door. It might even just be like, I've got myself back into the feeling of playing a PGA Tour event. It's simple as that, potentially. It doesn't really matter what it is. If there's form that carries on from it, then you've got to give it some credit.
Yeah, so he did that in the off time. You know what I mean? Like, so that's no one else really.
Yeah.
Alex Fitzpatrick did the same thing too, but had a different partner than Brandon Wu, right?
Like, Fitz weren't good, so like you expect Alex Fitzpatrick to go there and potentially get himself a PGA Tour card. So if he doesn't do that, that's a massive lid down. I know they finished like 11th or whatever it was, but like for a major winner with his brother that was actually playing good golf, that's pretty disappointing. From a perspective of just making cuts that you're not used to making, that is probably a positive. That's where I think it gets so blurry.
And Nicholas T19th in 36 holes at Walton Heath today. Like enough that I am going to watch him very closely over the next week, 2 weeks. We're going to get a summer stretch. Like I still am a believer in that talent overall, but feel more confident adding Ivan Quintero Gutierrez.
That makes more sense.
That's what I got. Anybody else that you feel the need to run through?
No, you mentioned to me about Manasero's price being big, and it is. You mentioned to me about Brandon Stone's price being big, and it is. Don't know if Stone's quite got it back enough to win. Manasero I just don't get. Like, I think they're just preying on people like me that are just remembering Manasero 2013, 2011, whatever, and just hoping that people just bet big on him when they shouldn't do. He's just so volatile, but probably a good golf course for him. Like, he's shown that like big driver heavy stuff's not ideal for him. I know he obviously played well when he won the Johnson Workwear, but that's more because he has more room as opposed to being able to really take advantage of big driving holes. So Eddie Pepperell's back after a really long layoff. I don't know what was wrong with him. I think he had a bit of an injury. But yeah.
Saw him tweeting. So he was tweeting yesterday.
That's the main thing. If he's tweeting, he's probably all right. Jens Dansort's played well here a couple of times, and he's 225 to 1. But like they're just names at this point. Like, I'm really happy with the selection we've got. I did notice that Tom Lewis had played okay recently, and he's playing. I just want to see one more. He's not on this list. Is Reece Enoch playing? He's not on the list I've got, but he's in the odds.
He's 350 to 1, yeah.
Like so I bet him last time out on the Challenge Tour, and he was right in the mix, and then just completely fell away. And he's pretty much just, if he plays in South Africa, he can win. If he doesn't, he can't. That's his kind of level, I think, Reece Enoch, even though he's not. He's Welsh, so I don't know why he's so good in South Africa. But like, I don't know if he's got South African parents or something. But he's an interesting one, just from a perspective of he's playing better overall than 350 to 1 suggests.
Yeah, the other one, I guess, Tario Ban would be somebody who popped at same thing. If you look at the China pops, Kenya Open T11th there. Decent, I think, outright numbers too, right? He's 250s here in the States. That's somebody I thought deserved a second look too.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think there's a lot of players that are just being sort of overlooked a little bit based on just maybe value in the top of the market more than it should be.
That's where I think it lies. Yes, I think that's kind of the genesis of the rest of the board. But I'm cool to put a bow on my card here. Sounds like you're good. We're gonna make sure to give a shout out to our audio listeners. You can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, the mix, available on all different Mayo media platforms. Appreciate the love, support as we hit the DP World Tour summer. It goes a long, long way. Tom, if you want to run through your betting card, and then I'll follow you.
Yeah, so Johannes Veerman back out to 60-1 after momentarily going to 55, so that's a good sign. Joel Gearback is now 80-1. Sky is the best price. So as we said, going into that kind of form, we obviously put him at 100 to start the show. Nacho Elvira, 100-1, and Matteo Schwab at 120.
Cool. I'm Johannes Veerman, 55. Guido Migliazzi, 60. Joel Gearback, 100. I'm just going to quote that price, but yes, 80s I'm 100% good with. Matthias Schwab, I will join you, 120. Nicolo Galetti, 150-1, and Ivan Quintero Gutierrez, 171 to close it out. I'm excited. These are the events we love. Like this is what I sign up for when I think about the DP World Tour this week right here.
Yeah, like this is our bread and butter, right? And if we don't get the results in here, it's disappointing. Like obviously people are going to be more interested in Scottish Open and stuff when we get around to the Open Championship. But like for us, in terms of just really enjoying the DP World Tour, and the genesis of the show is these types of events where it's not like, because sometimes I think we overvalue these really small events, like in it becomes almost sort of satire if we really want the kind of low run events to be really good. But like this has got, as you referenced at the start of the show, like good players, good DP World Tour players in it. It makes it a promising event. Ategi, Smith, Peters, Paul, Wiesberger, Mansell, like really strong. Antoine Rosner's playing good golf, like strong names at the top of the board, where it also boosts the value of players that we think are real guys, and that's the main thing.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Well, we will close it out here, and then beyond this, let's see. So after Soudal, we will go directly. Pull it up. Scandinavian, or no. Yeah, we'll go to Green Eagle next week, and then Scandinavian mix before Pinehurst, and then we'll have a really good stretch leading into the Open Championship. So perfect. Well, thank you, Tom. As always, appreciate you. Best of luck, everybody, and we will catch you next week.